No. No. No, I'm not, no. That's not right. That is not right.
What are you doing?
I'm reading this book.
Why?
Well, because reading is fundamental, and I don't want to be an idiot.
Well, what's it about?
Well, the basic premise seems to suggest that people who are devoid of any moral or ethical code have a great advantage financially in the marketplace because they're willing to do whatever it takes to make money. But people who do have a strong moral and ethical code, they're at a disadvantage because they adhere to the golden rule, and there's things they just won't do for money.
So if you sell drugs, you'll make more money than if you build high-end custom blasters.
Exactly.
Okay?
Got it?
Yes.
Okay. I know of no more encouraging fact than the unquestionable ability of man to elevate his life by conscious endeavor. Henry David Thoreau. The man who does not read has no advantage over the man who cannot read. Mark Twain. Ted Trueblood. Ted Trueblood was born in Boise, Idaho, June 25, 1913, and he was raised on his family farm near Homedale, Idaho. He died on September the 12th, 1982, at the age of 69. He wrote for Field and Stream magazine for over 40 years. Hi. I've been putting this off for a really long time. This is a video that we wanted to do. And truthfully, I just don't honestly know if I have the courage to be able to do it. It's going to be hard for me. My dad died on January the 20th, I believe, this year. And we didn't even find out that he died for, I don't think we found out till March, right?
I think so.
Because I had a very, very distant, strained relationship with my dad because he was not an honorable man. And that drove us, and let's just say there's no fellowship between the light and the dark. And so I didn't even see him for the last 23 years of his life. And because he was not a great human being, and somehow, by the grace of God, I realized that. And somehow, I knew that I had to choose my own role models. I knew that. I don't know how. Perhaps because of Boy Scouts, which we will get deeply into here. But I had to choose my own role models, and I did it through books. One thing I will say, I was very blessed to be able to read. I think I was reading by the age of 5. And again, perhaps just by blessings, it seems like the right books were put in front of me, and it led me in certain directions that have brought me here. And the reason that I mentioned Ted Trueblood is, first of all, if you haven't read Ted Trueblood, you definitely should. And second of all, because Ted Trueblood was the dad that I would have wanted to have, but didn't. Okay? So anyways, hopefully I'll get over this part of this. But about 30 years ago, I made a resolution to try to read a book a week, every week, for the rest of my life. Now the truth is, I do not believe there's been a single year where I actually read 52 books in one year. But there's been a lot of years where I did 40, maybe 45. I don't know if I've ever done 50. But approximately 1,500 books have fallen by the wayside. 1,500, that's a lot of books. And I read an awful lot of books long before I ever made that resolution, because I was about 30 years old when I did that. And so, if of all the videos I will ever make, this will probably be the most important one, because if I could tell you one thing in life is to read. I mean, reading truly is fundamental. It's one of the most important things you can possibly do, and it can change your life, especially if you read good books, wisdom books, not novels. We are not talking about novels here. I read books to gain knowledge and to try to learn things. And so, with that being said, and of course, since this is a blaster channel, we are going to go into blaster stuff first, and then we'll go from blaster stuff and we'll move into books that are of greater and greater importance to me and to what shaped my character. And so we're going to start right here, and this is going to be hard because there's an awful lot of books here. And of course, there's only 200 or 300 books here. Like I said, there's 1,500, and I can't keep them all. I'm not a rich man. You know, rich men have a big library and they have stacks of books that go the whole way to the ceiling, and that would be awesome. But my books end up in storage bins, stuck away. And so we had to, it was a big deal just to dig this many of them out. And there's ones, by the way, I'll say that right now, there is some that are missing that I don't know where they are. They must be buried somewhere, and they were probably some of the most important ones. And I may mention some of those as we go on, if they come to mind. Ayn Rand, A-Y-N Rand, R-A-N-D. The Fountainhead and Atlas Shrugged are not here. Definitely those are worth reading. You want to have an insight into humanity, those are worth reading. But we're gonna do what I said. We're gonna start on reloading stuff. And of course, I can't show these all to you. But this is Spear number 7. This is my very first reloading book that I ever had. And I didn't buy this, okay? I didn't buy this. This actually was my dad's. He did do reloading for, just back off now. I want to just tell you the date on this. He did do shotgun reloading. He never did rifle reloading. The copyright on this is 1966. 1966. So this is the first hand-loading book that I ever started reading. Okay, so I set that over. And by the way, there's something else, and I don't want to, I realize I'm going to jump around here a lot, but that's just the way my mind works. I apologize. What started all of this whole dang path that has been over 50 years in the running, was when I was a kid, we were poor, like a lot of people. We were poor. And my mom had to go to a laundromat to do laundry. And like I said, I could read by 4 or 5, definitely by 5. And I remember going to that laundromat. It's one of my first, most vivid memories, and being told, sit on that chair there. Because, of course, she had to do the laundry. She had to work. Well, on the chair, not on the chair, right beside the chair on a little stand, there was a magazine called Pennsylvania Game News. And I owe a lot to Pennsylvania Game News also. In that magazine, there were 2 men that, again, I never met them how I wish that I could have. They are both, I believe they're both dead. I know, but I'll back up. Don Lewis and Bob Bell. Don Lewis wrote for Pennsylvania Game News for decades and decades. And he was the gun guy, and he wrote a lot on groundhog hunting. And when I lived in the East, I was just a crazed groundhog hunter. And that got me into precision, got me into reloading, etc. But then Bob Bell also wrote, he wrote for a lot of different magazines. There's even some things here that Bob Bell is in. Those 2 guys started me on a path that has led me to where I am right now. I mean, and I can remember reading that. And what's crazy is, years later, a lot of people don't know this, I wrote for Precision Shooting Magazine, for Shooters News Magazine. I wrote for Pennsylvania Game News. Now, not a lot. I had maybe 5 or 6 articles in Pennsylvania Game News. But it was such a cool thing to be a little child reading Pennsylvania Game News, and then by the age of 25 to actually see your name in it. I mean, it was very cool. All right, so my daughter is going to be the one who's going to move books from this table to that one. So go ahead and take this. That's Spear number 7. Okay, so this is Spear number 10. This is my second one, and I know that I actually bought this one, Spear number 10. And I should have wrote in here, this is 1979. 1979, and it used to be called Omark Industries. Now here's what's really crazy. A lot of you may know this. My wife works for these people. I mean, you think how bizarre that is. So spear number, what did I say? Number 10. Okay, I'll take that. Okay, this is, all of these now I bought over the years. This is my first Nosler manual. Nosler number 2. Number 2. I don't know what year number 2 is. Look, I have handwritten notes in here all these years later. Number 2 is 1981. Again, if you don't actually read your reloading manuals, this is basic reloading, but there's a ton of information in these books. They're definitely worth every penny. So this is Alliant Reloading Powders Guide. Hilo, take it. This is Hodgkin's 25th, the 25th edition. And when I say that I read these things, I've read these things over and over and over again, almost memorized them. Okay, here's Hodgkin's number, what's that? What was that? That doesn't matter. Go ahead, keep going. This is number 26. Okay, and these are big books. And like I said, there's a ton of information in here. Okay, here is Nosler Reloading Manual, number 3. Number 3, what year is number 3? Look, I actually was given this as a gift, 1989. 1989. And by the way, some of these Nosler Reloading Manuals, they are really good. Really, really good. I mean, and the writers, it's just, I can't say enough. Okay, here is Nosler Reloading Guide, 5th edition. And I'm not going to go through all the years. Again, if you don't have it, you need it. Here is Nosler number 6. Again, look how big these books are. Tons of information. You notice I got notes and everything through all these. I mean, there's just, if you're a gun guy and you don't read reloading manuals, you're shortchanging yourself because there's so much information. Nosler number 7. Again, look at the size of that book. Number 7. Okay, Nosler number 8. Hilo, don't stack them up too high. Okay, here we go. Nosler number 9. I think this is the newest Nosler. And I mean, there's just...
I think I bought you that one.
Maybe. Anyways, so much information. You know, again, you need this. Okay, here is, of course, everybody's waiting. If anybody's burgers watching this, it's time for second edition. This is number 1, and it's a good book. But there's been so many new powders, so many new bullets. They really, maybe they are at this moment. They need to be working on the second edition of Burger. Okay, here's another spear. And this was, you know what, I'm not going to go into it. Reloading Manual number 14. There should have been a 15, a 16, a 17. Again, they dropped the ball. This is a really good book, but the fact that there's not updates, shameful. Just shameful. There's no updates for that. Here is Hornady 3rd edition. My God, look what it cost back then. $14. That's 1984. Okay, what is this? Hornady. This is number 9. Hornady. Really good book. And here's the newest one. Newest one I have. I think there might be a newer one than this now. I try to get, every time a new one comes out, I try to get it. 10th edition. And when I say that, when I say I try to get every new one that comes out, I don't mean I just go in the store and be like, hey, I need to get that book and put it on my shelf. No. When I get one of these, I start at page 1 and I read every word of these things. And again, there's just so much to learn. People will be like, well, how do you know so much? Well, that's how. You read it. Okay, here, I bought this. I can remember buying this. I don't know what date's in here, and I'm not going to look. This is Sierra, 2nd edition. And you know what's really cool? By the way, here's something else that's really cool. You know, you look back through here and you say, like, I think about people that I've actually met over the years, like Earl Chronister. Earl Chronister set world record 1,000 yard a couple of times. I get to shoot with the guy years and years and years ago. Howard Wolf, Bruce Bear. A lot of these people are in these books. And it's like, you got to meet them, which actually that's going to bring up another thing here.
This
one of
is
my
a big
big stories.
book.
Put that over there. All right, here's Sierra 3rd edition. Again, I about wore this thing out. I mean, I've read that so many times. Here is Sierra, what's on this one? 5th edition. Same deal. I really use these a lot. I don't like this format. I mean, I like it when it's on the bench, the way it lays open. But you see what happens? You just saw it right there. This binder method, I like the Nosler format better than I like the Sierra format. But it is nice when it's laying on a table. So this is 6th. I think this is the newest one. Hilo, take these. Okay, now, here. Take these, Hilo. Take both of these. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to jump. I'm going to jump over to these and go into these next for a minute. What is this? Where are we right here? Okay. I'll come back to the gun ones in a second. But I want to get these out of the way. Okay, so she needs to move that. All right, so I'm assuming most of the people that watch our channel know who Bill O'Reilly is, right? Let me tell you something. All of these books are excellent. You learn so much history in these books. And there's so many little factoids that you don't know. It's like, yeah, you went to school, you learned things, but there's tons of stuff that they don't teach you in here. So here's Bill O'Reilly killing Kennedy. I would say, in my opinion, this might be one of his very best ones. Bill O'Reilly killing Lincoln. I never knew the name Mary Surratt. Mary Surratt, I believe, to this day is the only woman that was ever hanged by the U.S. government. And I don't know whether, I don't think it was justified, but again, you got to read the book. But that's the kind of things you learn in these books. I mean, you learn so much. Mary Surratt, killing Lincoln. This one, if you can only buy one or two, I would say this would definitely be one of them. Take that. Okay, this one also, killing the SS. Man, the manhunts that went on to hunt down some of the Nazis years and years later, and the whole story about the Mossad and everybody hunting these guys down. Super intriguing. This is a really, really good book. Take that. Okay, Killing England. This is basically the whole story of the Revolutionary War. And I mean, again, there's so much information. These guys, the amount of research that goes into one of these books, and it's a lot of it's actual documents and stuff. I mean, they're definitely worth reading. Okay, Killing Patton. It's funny. Again, I know it was a good book, but not a lot of stuff jumps out about Killing Patton. I don't really remember. I remember, yeah, he slapped the soldier and all that stuff, but there's stuff about that I don't remember. I should read that one again. This one I just finished, like maybe only about a week ago. Killing Crazy Horse. So go ahead and look at my face now, because I want to say something about this. So, we live in Lewiston, Idaho, and the Nez Perce Indian tribe is not far from here. And I got to tell you something. This book changed my perspective on the whole Indian, everything that we were ever taught and stuff. The truth is, the Indians got the shaft. I mean, once you're finished with this book, you're going to come away with, yeah, the Indians did a whole bunch of horrible, brutal stuff. But guess what? So did the white people. They did a whole bunch of brutal stuff. And the deal is the white people lied to the Indians. Every single time they gave them something, well, then more white people would come and they would take it away. They'd give them, give them this, and then they'd rip it back. And this is a sad, very sad book. And there is a ton of death and misery of what went on. And there was no winner. Like in any war, there was no winner. But it really changed my perspective on what the Indians went through. They got the shaft. Okay? So you need to read that one. That's a good one. This is Killing Reagan. Same deal. Excellent book. And there's a bunch of stuff in there. I'd say the main takeaway is Ronald Reagan was a genuinely good man. He was an honorable man. That's what you need to know about that one. This one, oh man. So you just need to read it. Of course, I almost knew, because of what I'm interested in and what I believe, I knew a lot of it. And you need to read it. You need to read it. Take that. And then this one, I don't really remember this one all that much either. It's everything he said in this has come to fruition. That's a fact. It's just like, he's like, everything's going to get worse. Well, everything's getting worse. Here, come and get this one. Okay, now I'll go back into, I kind of want to keep this one aside for a second. So, I was telling you, here he is right here. I mean, I must have read this book 1,000 times. I mean, this is a really good book. Gun Digest Book of Scopes and Mounts, Bob Bell. Again, I just love Bob Bell, and I really wish that I could have met him. Leave that one there. I really wish that I could have met him. I don't know if he's still alive or not. If he is, I would guess he's somewhere late 80s or early 90s. So just a really good writer. And there's things you remember. I think it's called the $6,000 buck or the $6,000 spike, where a couple of guys stole a deer off of his little daughter. She shot it, they came and took it. You have to find that story just for that story. I will just tell you part of it. He said something like, he was shooting a .338 Win Mag with 250 grain partition, something like that. And he said, you ought to see what it does to an engine block. It was good. All right, Ilo, take this one.
What about this one?
Nope, not that one. Leave that one there for now. Okay. Go ahead. Okay, so here, these are just basic stuff. Home Gunsmithing Digest. Again, I must have read every word 50 times. Take that, Hilo. We got to go faster. This is going to take forever. Sporting Rifle Takedown and Reassembly Guide. Again, these are all just technical manuals. This is cool. Cartridges of the World. I mean, you can really learn a lot and stuff. And by the way, we're going to come into another book here somewhere. If you think you have an original idea, probably not. Okay, take that. Okay, so Gun Digest book of rifle smithing. And again, this is basic stuff. It's, none of this isn't the stuff that I do here, but it gets you get from this is how you get from here, you come from here to get to that, is how you do it. Take that. Okay, now this is one of my favorite guys, and I would have forgot, see if the book wasn't here. Edward Matunas. Man, this guy taught me a lot, and I don't mean just in this book. He used to write for, I think he wrote for American Hunter or American Rifleman for a long time. He wrote for some of the big magazines for a long time, and this guy taught me a lot about reloading. He was I think he's dead also. He was very, very knowledgeable. Take that. Now, here you go again, when I talk about original ideas. Wildcat cartridges. Okay, same deal. If you think you have an original idea, or you think you're going to neck something up or neck something down, or you're going to come up with something new, you need to read this book first. I mean, these guys were doing this stuff in the 30s and 40s and 50s, long before 6.5 Crapmore came along. Okay, it's a joke. If you know this stuff, that other stuff's a joke. Hilo, get this. Don't drop it. Okay. Now, we'll stay in gun stuff for a little bit. And some of these, I gotta... All right. Warren Page, The Accurate Rifle. So as we go through here, there are certain things that influenced me greatly. This book, I don't know if I can put it in my top 10 ever, but this, if you haven't read Warren Page, if you don't know who Warren Page is, you can't call yourself a shooter. I mean, Warren Page was a giant, okay? Just an absolute giant. And he was doing things 50 years ago that people think is cutting edge now. He would have laughed his butt off at the 7mm PRC, okay? So you got to read Warren Page. And you know what? I almost have to open this up maybe just for a second and see if there's anything. He shot, it just came to me, 7mm Mashburn Magnum. And your people were like, what's a Mashburn Magnum? Well, and this is all bench rest. I mean, okay, so, all right, something else. When I wrote for Precision Shooting, my byline was the Precision Hunter. And I sort of took it from Warren Page because we have hunters. There's lots of people who are hunters. And we have bench rest shooters. That's the precision end of it, the extreme precision end. But how many people are hunter bench rest shooters? And the answer to that is actually not very many. A lot of the bench rest guys don't hunt, and a lot of the hunters definitely do not shoot bench rest. But a hunter who is a bench rest shooter, man, he is a dangerous animal. He's a rare and dangerous animal because he doesn't miss. He just doesn't miss because he's into the precision end of it. And Warren Page definitely is my idol as far as the precision hunter end of it. If you haven't read this, you really need to read this. And then, by the way, if you need of course we're going to put these away. Like if you need the ISB number, I'm not going to look it up right now because it's going to be too hard. Actually, you know what? It's ISBN 0-88317-023-X. Okay, please put that over there. Hilo, it's really hard for Dad to do this while you're doing pirouettes over here, okay? All right. Okay, so here's another one. Same deal. If you haven't read this, if you're a precision shooter and you haven't read Glenn Newick's The Ultimate in Rifle Accuracy, well then you're missing out. Okay? Again, you're shortchanging yourself. Because this book, I guarantee you, I don't care how knowledgeable a shooter you are, it's going to teach you stuff. All right? You're going to learn things here. And, well, there's too much to say. There's too much to say, and this will be an 8-hour-long video. So you need that one. Now, this is cool. To me, it's cool. This is 1993 Precision Shooting Annual. All right, and it's a conglomerate. What's the word I'm looking for?
Compilation?
Yes, a compilation of a whole bunch of different articles and stuff that was published in precision shooting. And of course, when you're looking for something, you can't find it. I really need that too. Hold on a second. I can't find it. Anyways, I'm in this book. I have an article in this book.
Do they have a table of contents?
Yeah, it does, but that part isn't up here. So somewhere, maybe I'll come back to this. Maybe we'll add this on at the end. Somewhere in here, I have an article in this book. Again, it doesn't matter. I can't find it right now. I think I could find it. All right. So anyways, there's that. Hilo, set that over and set that aside somewhere so we can find that again.
Okay.
All right. Now, same deal. You talk about a lot of information. Gunsmith kinks. This is the first one. I mean, there's more in here than it's impossible to even imagine how much is in here. If you want to know how to do something, they're in these books. All right, take this one, Hilo. So there's number 1, Gunsmith number 1, Gunsmith kinks number 2, and again, I can't. And I'll tell you something else too. Whenever I read a book, I always have a red pen in my hand. Like literally, I'm reading the book and I have a red pen in my hand. And when I go through, if I find something that's important or is going to be maybe important, I put a red line under it. And boy, has that helped me. Because sometimes when I need to figure out something, it's like, now I saw that. I remember that somewhere. And then I'll go back and you'll see my red marks. I'll have red marks. Okay? And the red marks tell me how to do things. Or remind me, I guess you should say, because you can't keep this much in your head. Careful. All right, Gunsmith's kinks number 3. Again, if you're into this kind of stuff, these are worth it. I think you can still buy these. You get these off of Brownells. Okay, number 3. Gunsmith kinks number 4. The illustrations are actually quite funny. Take the next number, I'll be right with you. See, the guy's a skeleton. Take number 2. He has number 1. And by the way, it's not fair. Because the reason that it takes so long to get a dang gun is because we can't get our components. You know, I just had a guy on the phone not long ago, and he said something to me like, pretty hard to make a living when you can't get the parts you need. Well, isn't that the truth? If I can't get a receiver, or can't get a stock, or can't get a barrel, well, isn't it now? Who's the farthest behind now? Krieger, right?
Yes.
Didn't Krieger say 16 months?
Yes. 16
months to get a barrel. Who can do that? You know? Jeez. Okay, this here is another one. This guy was a giant. I know I'm using all the same words, but he truly was. Roy F. Dunlap, gunsmithing. Now here's something that you need to see my face about this. This is something that I really need to stress this. There's a point in this book where he says something like, and I am paraphrasing, He said, be careful what you choose. He said, because if you choose to go down this road, he said, you will end up blind and deaf. Blind and deaf. And let me tell you something, he's exactly right. You can't stare at things that are this far in front of your face. You can't wear 3 and 4X cheaters, 6, 8, 10, 12 hours a day. You can't shoot, I don't know how many thousands upon thousands upon thousands. We just got back from shooting yesterday. And I probably shot, I don't know. It doesn't matter. The point is, it's the cumulative effect of doing this for 50, 60 years. I mean, my hearing, I probably got 20% normal hearing, if that even. I'm nearly completely deaf. And there are days when I'm in here that when I go to leave, I can't see. Like I take those cheaters off and I go out and it's like, I can't see. I can't see. Now, in 3, 4, 5 hours later, it'll come back. But he's absolutely right. Unless you're willing to go blind and deaf, you might want to avoid this business. You know, and I know the riches of it is going to be so lucrative, of course, but you know, you don't want to be misled by that. Okay, so CNC tips and techniques. Obviously, I don't have any CNC equipment, but I wanted to learn as much as I can about it. And actually, I have other books at home that I know where they are, and I didn't remember to bring them. Here you go. CNC. This book is a classic. I bet you every dang gunsmith that's anywhere here in the United States, maybe in the whole world, that's just starting out in his basement or his garage, I bet every one of them has this. How to run a lathe. I mean, it's a super cool book. Look at the pictures. I mean, these lathes are from like the 30s and 40s. I mean, and wouldn't it be awesome to have one of those now? I mean, oh well. Anyways, you need to read that. Here's another one that's really good. The Complete Guide to AR-15 Accuracy. These guys know their business. Derek Martin, Barrett, Tillman. I don't know either one of them, but they've been shooters forever. These are good. This is a good book. You can definitely, even if you're not an AR guy, which I'm not really, I can see the use for them. When a coyote's hauling butt across the field 300 yards away, having an AR with a 30-round clip's not a bad idea. Okay, take that. All right, how about this one? This one's too, and I should have the other one. Vicki, buy me the other one. This is volume 2, Modern Advancements in Long-Range Shooting, volume 2, Brian Litz. There are things in this book that are very important. I want to see, again, I have so many red underlines in here. I want to see, there's one that specific one that I'm looking for, if I can find it. And it is about Harold Vaughn, I believe. And Harold Vaughn used to write for Precision Shooting Magazine way back whenever I wrote for Precision Shooting Magazine. And now, you know what? There's things in here, though, I don't want to give away too much right here. So, yeah, he's talking about it. It's right here. It is. It's Harold Vaughn, and it's his book, and I don't have it here. I don't know where that is. That's something I'm missing. It's Harold Vaughn's Rifle Accuracy Facts from 1998. If you don't have that book, get it. You really want to learn, get it. But there's right here. It's just one sentence I'm going to read. Well, the upshot of all this is that a heavy, flexible barrel is best. I have that underlined. And it's right underneath there. And it says, which is just the opposite to what the computer simulation was telling us. Okay. If a guy will let me build a gun the way I want to build it, in other words, instead of calling me up and the first thing saying is, well, I want a gun that weighs 7 pounds, and I want it to shoot under an inch at 400 yards. Well, that's possible, but those two things are a contradiction. They're an anathema to each other, right? They don't go together. So if you say to me, I want to shoot 5-shot groups, inch or less at 400 yards, and you let me build it the way I want, that is definitely possible. In fact, we're almost getting to the point, I'm not saying it's easy, but you have to put the right cartridge, the right bullet, the right contours, the right receiver in the right stock to get it done. And there's a whole lot more that goes on with barrel contours than what people think. A whole lot more. And that's one of the reasons, and again, I'm not going to give away tons of information, but we have gone to larger breech diameters for a reason. So that's what I'll say about that. I think there was something else right here. Here's another thing. If you're going to get fluted barrels, which we are moving away from fluted barrels more and more, we almost never use them now. First of all, if I'm going to do fluted, I will only do shallow 10 flute. That's it. That's a Krieger. That's a Krieger process by Krieger. But what I'm saying to you is if you're getting barrels fluted by a gunsmith, bad idea. Read the book. Really bad idea. Let me see what else is in here. I don't know. There's so much stuff that I have underlined in here, it isn't even funny. So anyways, you need this, and I need to get volume 1. There's a ton of good information in there. Okay, take that, Hilo. So I'm watching the clock too. This is already starting to run long. So machine shop, operations and setup. A friend of mine years and years ago, and I mean a long time ago, this was his high school machine shop class book, and he gave it to me. He ended up going on to be a machinist, by the way. I'm talking about a guy who made a living as a machinist, not as a gun builder. And he gave me this book years ago, same deal. I've read this 1,000 times. And truthfully, I don't even remember half of it. But, that information sort of goes with you. Okay, so here's another CNC handbook. Let's see, I want to say this carefully too. I got to choose my words really carefully. So what I'm going to say is, I can see a great advantage for CNC making parts. Absolutely. But for what I do here, I would prefer to do it this way because I can feel everything. I've said this before and people think this is nuts or witchcraft or something. I can feel the vibration in the floor. I can feel it in my hands. I can hear, even though I'm deaf, it actually helps. I can hear a certain pitch. I can hear and feel things, a sensitivity issue that when you just put a part in the machine and hit start, and I know there's a whole lot more to that, but there are certain things that I think are still done better manually by hand if the person that's doing it knows what they're doing and they really care about it. All right, now I'm going to set this aside too just for a second because those are super important to me. All right, so here's another one. Extreme Rifle Accuracy, okay? Mike Radigan. If you haven't read this book, same deal. You're not as knowledgeable as you could be because there is a ton of information in this. Hilo, quit dancing around. Quit dancing around and do your job. You ready? Now, here we go. I mean, there should be, if we had an orchestra right now, there would be a crescendo and they would be beating on the drums and the whole deal would be going because this is the Book of Rifle Accuracy by Tony Boyer. Now, the fact is, Tony Boyer's like a Superman. He really, honest to God, is. And just yesterday, while we were out shooting in horrible, crappy wind, I looked right into the camera and I said, I am not Tony Boyer and the wind is not my friend. Okay? It really isn't. Because when we go out to shoot, there should be no confusion of what we're trying to do. We are testing the gun. We're not seeing what my ability to shoot in the wind is. Yes, do I want to shoot little wee bug holes? Absolutely I do. But I have to be able to shoot those bug holes by holding on the exact same point of impact every time I pull the trigger. I can't look down there and say the flags are telling me I need to hold 1 inch into a 3 o'clock to 9 o'clock wind. I can't do that because then I'm testing my ability to shoot the gun. I'm not testing the gun. So when we go out to shoot and it's windy, all I'm doing is looking for the same condition. And like yesterday, it was windy all day long. So when I see the flags doing the same thing, that's when I shoot. Whether it's good or not, or good, bad, indifferent. I can't test my ability to shoot and test the gun at the same time. Those are two opposite things. So could I shoot way smaller groups with some of these guns? Absolutely. But I'm not going to do that because that defeats the purpose of what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to find out I'm at least trying to get a rough idea of what the gun is capable of. And it's, really, again, we're there to see if we have a bad barrel. So even if I get one group that's like 0.2, 3.3 in a little hole, I know there's nothing wrong with the gun, right? So that's what I'm out there doing. If you don't have this book, you need to get this book. Oh, there's one more thing I have to say about this. Because people knew that he was going to be writing this book. Because books don't just pop out of, like in 10 minutes. It takes time. There's so much work here, you can't believe it. All the photos and illustrations. When you're at the point where I am, you are looking for any little nugget you can find. So even if you have to literally use a D11 to move an entire mountain to find one little gold nugget, you're willing to do that because you're looking for that one nugget, right? One new piece of truth. And when I got this book, I waited and waited. And when it came, I immediately sat down. I read this thing cover to cover. I just sat there for like 5 or 6 hours, read the whole book. I was looking for a secret. And you know what's interesting? And again, I'm paraphrasing. I'm not putting words in Tony Boyer's mouth. But the takeaway is exactly what I've always known. It's the barrel, stupid. That's what it is. It's the barrel. And we're not talking about hunting guns. We're not talking about guns that will shoot half-inch. If you want to sit down there and you want to put 5 shots in a little bug hole that you can barely tell 2 bullets went through, you better have a perfect rifle. In other words, all this stuff has to be perfect, but you better have an awesome barrel. Because the truth is, most barrels are not one-hole barrels. They just aren't. And that's one of the reasons why that we have the guarantee that we have. You call me up, and if you say, okay, I want a gun that will shoot 5 shots in 2 inches at 800 yards, guaranteed, under dead calm conditions, that is definitely possible now. Definitely. And if you doubt that, just take a trip over to Missoula and hang around with the guys that are shooting at the Deep Creek range. We're actually beyond that point now. They're getting down into groups that are like this at 1,000 yards, right? So the thing is, though, to do that, you have to have a Hummer barrel. That's what I was going for. Sorry. You have to have what Tony Boyer calls a Hummer barrel. You don't always get the Hummer barrel in the first one. So if you want to shoot unbelievably small groups, you're going to be willing to do exactly what he was doing. Take a brand new barrel, chamber it up, screw it on, take it out on the bench, shoot it. I think he says in here, he could tell if a barrel was a Hummer or not. Again, I'm not putting words in his mouth, and I'm doing this out of memory. I think he said 30 shots. 30 shots, and he's already evaluated, and it's a Hummer, it's a good barrel, it's an okay barrel, it's a scrap barrel, it's a Sider Fowler shot barrel. That's the secret. There is no secret. The secret is you have to build the gun perfect, and you got to have an awesome barrel. Okay, I went on way too long about that. If you don't have this book, buy it. This is an awesome book. Okay, so this is, of course, more simplistic stuff. Learn gunsmithing, the troubleshooting method. Okay, take that, Hilo.
Okay.
This is good, and this is a real shame. This guy died. I got to tell you something about this guy. And again, I want to be kind, but his writing style is horrible. It's like, ugh. But his information is outstanding. Again, a ton of knowledge, just communicating it. To me, different people like different writing styles. I mean, he makes up words. To a real true precision guy, you don't use fake words. I mean, it has to actually mean something, right? Tons of good information. Tons of it. Okay, and he died, by the way, and that was sad, really sad. He was a good guy. Okay, now again, if you think you know about cartridges and chambers, and read this book. I mean, look at the size of this thing. Oh my God, these are all chamber prints and stuff. Same deal. If you think you're dreaming up a new 30 Super Whacker, pretty much somebody else already had the 30 Super Whacker, and they made a reamer for it. Okay, here they probably had the 30 Super Whacker with the 25, the 30, the 35, and the 40-degree shoulder. Okay, somebody's already done it. Now some of these I have 2 of, so I have double of these. That's how important it is to me. This is good. Rifling machines and methods. Clifford LeBounty. I actually have a LeBounty fixture over here that I haven't used in years. It's for truing up bolts. But I don't do that stuff anymore. I use bats, right? So I don't have to do all that, which is better. But that's a whole nother subject. Anyways, you want to learn about barrels and rifling and stuff? This is a good book. Really good book. Definitely worth the money. Okay. Here, same deal. You can learn a lot out of this. The Gunsmith Machinist. I learned a ton out of this book. Very good book. Set that over. There's 2 of them.
There's 2.
Set it over. Okay, now this is not so much gunsmithing or gun building, but it's definitely, there's a ton of information in here. I mean, really, metalworking, sink or swim, Tom Lipton. That guy's a smart guy, by the way. If I remember right, he's a professor, like an actual college professor that teaches shop type stuff. I mean, the guy's smart, real smart. Okay, gunsmithing tips and projects. This is probably one of my most favorite books. And again, you can see the pages are getting yellow and stuff. I mean, there's so much in here. Just look, and we're gonna be coming and talking about him in just a moment, Jim Carmichael. And I almost hope I don't run on for hours on end because it's just amazing. Okay, so oh, by the way, I don't know if you saw that. There's an article in here called boring a chamber. In other words, putting it in the lathe using a boring bar and boring the tapers, boring the angles. No reamer, okay? Wow, that's over my head. Okay, take that, Hilo. Now, here's another one. You need this one also. You want to learn stuff? The bench rest shooting primer. And this is a whole bunch of stuff from Precision Shooting Magazine also, 1982 to 96. By the way, I wrote for Precision Shooting for about 10 years, from about 89 to 99, somewhere in there. And then what was really horrible is, I'm not going to use his name, the guy that ran the magazine was a drunk. He was a drunk, and he squandered the money, and he ran the magazine into bankruptcy. And you know what I've heard? This is all secondhand information, so yes, I am gossiping, but this is pretty good, reliable information. The people who had paid for their advertising for the magazine, some of those people paid for like a year's worth of advertising. Say you take out a whole page. A lot of guys don't know this. Advertising in a magazine is insanely expensive. You just put a little wee ad in like this and say, even in a magazine, say the size of rifle or hand loader, it's like $5,000 for one insertion. It's crazy the amount of money that people put to advertise. Anyways, people paid for all their advertising, and then the magazine went bust. They didn't get their money back. I mean, you talk about a ripoff.
Same with memberships.
Same with membership?
Or the subscriptions.
Subscriptions?
Right.
Yes. And you know, that's something else. I mean, I realize this is going to get really long. Subscriptions. People don't realize how few of true precision shooters there are. I remember this pretty accurately, I think. When I wrote for Precision Shooting Magazine, that was right at the height of the subscription rate for that magazine. And in the whole world, there was only 14,000 subscribers. In the whole world. You know what I mean? Back then, there was probably like 6 billion people. 14,000 out of 6 billion? Believe me, I'm not a math guy. That's like 0.0000000. And then finally you get to Tony Boyer. You know what I mean? He's like 0.5% of a 0.5% of a 0.5% of a 0.5%. I mean, can't even figure it out. Now, this is good. Now, some of these are just hunting books. To heck with deer hunting. Jim Zumbo. You know, a lot of guys, there's a whole story with him. But again, he was an excellent writer. Excellent writer, excellent hunter. I met him, by the way. I met him and Chuck Yeager. I think I met them both at the same time. I think, wow, I'm really going to date myself. I think it was at the opening of the first Cabela's. The first Super Cabela's, not the one that's down in town. Where's that at? Kearney? I can't remember. It's the one that was up on the interstate. The very first Cabela's mega store. I know I met Chuck Yeager there. I'm not sure if Jim Zumbo was there or not. Okay, so here's another one. You know, people, I guess all you do is look up there and you realize we were, in our youth, we were pretty serious elk hunters, okay? I mean, look on the floor right there. There's elk cracks all over the place. This Calling All Elk, this is a really good book, okay? Take this. Hilo, you gotta pay attention. Now, this one changed my life. When I was a kid, like I said, I didn't have the greatest childhood, not at all. And I became so disillusioned with humanity that I just didn't want to be around people. I mean, I don't think that at that point, I don't even know if the Jeremiah Johnson movie had been made yet, but, you know, and there was another book, My Side of the Mountain, which they made into a movie. That was my deal. I just wanted to leave. I just wanted to get away from all people. I didn't want to be around people at all. And so this Trapping North American Fur Bearers by Stanley Hobbaker, Again, I bet if I opened this, I almost have this memorized. It took me into the woods, and it kept me in the woods. You know, you're a kid. You know, maybe sometimes I was only at the beginning 10 years old. You're getting up at 4 and 5 in the morning. You're walking through the dark for hours in the dark. It is scary. I mean, dang scary. And, you know, finding 30-pound raccoons and shooting them in the head with a dang 22 and putting them in a backpack and carrying them for miles. Get back by 7:30, get ready, hurry up, get ready, go to school. The second you get out of school, you got to hurry up, put on your trapping clothes, and there you go, out into the woods again. Sometimes I wouldn't be back out of the woods till 9:30 at night, which in the east, and in the winter it gets dark early. I mean, I spent probably half of my day every day in the woods. And of course, I won't say we made a lot of money, but for a kid, we made money, because I remember the prices then. I remember getting, I think the best raccoon I ever had, I think we got $35 a raccoon. Well, in 1976, $35 was a lot of money. I mean, that was a lot of money. So anyways, I doubt you can find this book, but boy, if you have a kid or a grandkid, and then trapping will make you into an outdoorsman. That's a fact. It really will. You learn so much in trapping. Okay, take that, Hilo. Be careful with it. Okay, again, if you know the name Ned Smith, you know that he was an artist, and you also know that he wrote for Pennsylvania Game News also for years and years and years. This is just a wonderful book. I mean, just a wonderful book. It really is. He will teach you so much about so many things. I mean, it's amazing. Again, I can't talk enough about that. Put that one over. This is, you know, I was born in Pennsylvania, and so this is a Jim Zumbo book. And so this was the very beginning. I think the first hunt that I ever made out to the west was maybe 1985 or 84, 83, somewhere in that range right there. And holy cow. I mean, I basically came to the west and I'm living in the west. I'm not going back to the east. And the problem with me with the east was, you know, you walk a mile and there's a property line. You walk another mile, another property line. No trespassing signs everywhere. The people in the east do not have the concept of the Frank Church wilderness, where I can walk in one direction 50 miles and it's all public ground. All public ground. And it's just, that's what brought me, one of the things that brought me to the west. We're going to get to that too. Okay, this is another really good old-time writer. I really like this guy. He wrote for Pennsylvania Game News for years also, all about varmint hunting. There was a period in my life where I was a serious crow and rock chuck hunter. And of course, that leads you into higher-end guns, and it leads you into more precision-type hand loading. Take that, Hilo. I don't even know. This is just a book, The White-tailed Deer in Pennsylvania. You know, I was there in the glory years also. I remember when I think, and I remember reading this in Pennsylvania Game News, there was some years where on the first day of deer season, Pennsylvania put 1.5 million guys in the woods on that first morning. And it looked like an army of orange. And it sounded like the Battle of Gettysburg. I mean, it was just like machine guns almost, so much shooting and stuff. What always amazed me is that you'd have all that shooting, like maybe from where you were, you could hear during the day 500 shots. But then when everybody come out to the trailhead or out where the cars were parked, there was 2 deer. And that's a whole nother story. I realized just how bad at shots most people are, okay? Most people do a whole bunch of shooting and very little hitting, okay?
That many guys, you're lucky a lot of people.
Oh no, and by the time I was bigger, you know, I started hunting when I was 12 years old, started hunting for deer. I was in tree stands. I was in tree stands way before anybody else was. I had a Baker tree stand, which of course I nearly died. We didn't know what safety belts were. What the heck's the safety belt? And of course, being a stupid kid, I'm 16 years old. I'm 40 feet up this poplar tree. I mean, the deer look like ants running around down there. But meantime, the war's going on. Bam, bam, bam. And in the east, everybody either has a 760 or 7600 pump or lever action 30-30. And when they cut loose on them deer, they go till it runs dry. You know what I mean? Boom, 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 boom. The deer just keeps on going. Anyways, that's a whole other story.